Of course, very interesting images coming from various parts of the country as we've seen snowfall. And if you've got some of those images, get in touch with us via WhatsApp and share those pictures with us on 072-110-5584. But of course, it's been some celebration in some areas, people wanting to come out and enjoy the snow. But in other parts of the country, real tragedies that we have seen at this point. We know officially we have lost 49 lives in the Eastern Cape, and authorities are fearing that that number may very well go up as search and rescue teams continue to look for others that have been swept away by those adverse weather. But let's hear now from Gift of the Givers. We're joined by the project manager Ali Sablay to give us an update on the humanitarian needs on the ground. Ali, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Perhaps we start off in the Eastern Cape and then we'll move to other areas where your focus has been. But talk to us about the work that you're doing in the Eastern Cape and the areas that you found to be hardest hit.
Firstly, condolences to those 49 family members of the loved ones who have passed on, and strength to those families who are still waiting for closure of missing persons. I can report it's one of the biggest disasters in the Eastern Cape history. Death toll standing at 49 at the moment. The colony area of our Tambo, the hardest hit, there are still missing persons. Our team has been deployed yesterday to the Butterworth area, where close to 2,000 people are being placed in 3 community halls. We immediately activated urgent humanitarian need in terms of hot meals, clean drinking water, and warm clothing and blankets to assist these families. But while we were busy with assistance to the Butterworth area, we received those frantic calls from the OR Tambo area pleading for our assistance as close to 10,000 people are affected. That numbers can increase if you look how vast the areas is. We have deployed additional resources from other provinces in terms of blankets and other warm clothing to assist and extend our distributions to many other areas that's affected. And I can report tomorrow morning our search and rescue teams will be arriving in the OR Tambo district to assist the South African police services to extend their search operations for those people that are still missing. In the Butterworth area, there's no drinking water at the moment because the water plant was severely damaged and the pumps washed away. We have, at the request from the Amatole disaster risk management teams, we have been asked for assistance. We are deploying 2 water tankers to the area, and if needs be, we will send in trucks of bottled water to institutions like clinics and hospitals that are currently looking at patients that were severely affected by the floods as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a horrible situation. And of course, there's the concern around just the speed of authorities to deal with these challenges. I mean, talk to me about whether or not that's been a challenge. Gift of the Givers obviously giving some aid, but for the most part also very reliant on the work by officials.
Most definitely. The only challenge at the moment was logistical challenges. Some of the roads completely washed away, villages flooded, roads washed away. But we are very grateful to the assistance from the MEC of Kokta, Zulile Williams and his team, the local and district disaster risk management teams who are at their utmost trying to assist us in getting humanitarian aid to people that are completely cut off. We do know that there are some areas where there's no cell phone signal, no electricity. Over 300,000 people affected, as Eskom has reported, electrical wires and infrastructure damage. So we are grateful to those teams in making our operations smoother in getting aid to those people. We do know when some of the areas are not accessible for our trucks, we are using the resources of disaster risk management in getting the goods across. We are grateful for them for opening up community halls, which is much safer to accommodate people being inflicted by this calamity and getting them to a place of safety, especially women and children. We see the large number of elderly people who's on chronic medication who informed us how they thought it was their last when the water came over their structures. So we are just grateful that the halls operations are running smooth and that humanitarian aid is getting to those people where it is required.
Yeah, can we talk about what's happening in some of the other provinces? Of course, a lot of the focus on the Eastern Cape, but we have seen that very concerning death toll. But some of the other provinces that you think are perhaps really struggling at this time in areas that you've been focusing on?
Gift of the Givers teams are still currently on the ground in the Western Cape. As we do know, over the last 7 days, there was 3 major fires in the Western Cape. There was areas that were flooded as well when we were on a level 5 warning on Friday, Saturday. Our teams were on the ground, dispatched to the areas. We have assisted close to 5,000 people in those areas. And I'm talking of informal settlements of Kosovo, Samora Machel, Kailicha, Langa, Tunun. And we've seen an increase in informal settlement fires during this winter period. And speaking to community leaders, they informed us, due to this excessive cold weather, families are finding it difficult to stay home and keep their families home. They do light their paraffin heaters. They do make a fire in their structures. And unfortunately, when they fall asleep, excessive winds spread the fire rapidly. And it's not only their structure that gets affected, as communities. And communities often suffer a double blow where they're exposed to this harsh cold condition with not having a roof over their head.
Yeah, that's the Western Cape. KwaZulu-Natal, anything that you are working on there?
Our teams have responded to some of the areas that have been flooded in KwaZulu-Natal. Our teams have been on the ground yesterday and this morning. There were some informal settlements that were severely damaged by localized flooding. Our teams have been on the ground working with the disaster risk management officials. We are provided humanitarian aid in terms of blankets, hot meals, food parcels. We do know it's a critical time for many learners as they're writing their midterm examination. So we're working with the education department to ensure when any of these are learners that are affected, that there's no interruption in the examination and the school calendar for the year. In Gauteng, we are on standby as well. We are monitoring the situation there, as well as the Northern Cape and Free State.
Yeah, there is, of course, the issue of whether or not the communication and certainly the preparation before the storm is sufficient in many of our communities, and particularly those that are really vulnerable, informal settlements. What do you think that we really need to be taking from this moment about how we prepare for natural disasters?
With all the latest technology, being over the last few weeks, being in meetings with disaster risk management teams, the weather warnings do go out, but the only problem is how do you move 10 or 20,000 people who's on the low-lying areas? The only solution for that is if these people are given permanent housing. We have seen this over the last few years at the Jet Ski River in Alex. For the last few years, our teams have been responding to disaster when it's winter time, year after year, to the same area when heavy rains came down. And when we move those areas to a area of safety, there's no more disasters happening in that area. So the only solution, the warnings do go out, preparations gets taken in place. But when people build in low-lying areas, whether you have you give them a month or 2 months notice and they do not move, they're going to be affected. So the only solution is to move those families. And we could see today how frustrated the Premier and the MEC was, because the area of Tulongi, people built in the low-lying areas without any laws, without any bylaws. And where's the hardest hit area in the Old Tambo District Municipality is that specifically area. Most of the people that were washed away from that area as well. So communities are given the notice, but I think harsher implementations have to be done, taken in place, because unfortunately, if you look at the death toll, it's always the younger ones, the children that are caught up in the middle and who has a number of casualties.
Yeah, well, because the storm was so big and spread across various parts of the country, I imagine the work going to continue. What do you need as Gift of the Givers to continue the work that you're doing in these vulnerable communities? And also, I suppose, just how much work you think you're going to be doing and in terms of how much time you still will be at it in your view?
The disaster in the Eastern Cape is one of the biggest in its history. It's only day 2, 49 people have unfortunately passed on it or have drowned. And if you look at the vast area, it's going to be a huge operation. This operation will not be over in a week or so. We will be still handing out and assisting people in the coming weeks. There's a huge need for blankets, mattresses, clean drinking water, non-perishable food items. And as the roads as they fix up the roads and the roads become accessible, we can see already the state of disaster and the devastation. So there's a huge need at the moment. There's going to be a very costly operation to the Eastern Cape to hand out humanitarian aid to the Eastern Cape province. As we do know, our teams are currently feeding up to 5,000 people on a daily basis. Those people that are placed in community halls. and the blankets, and that still has to be distributed. And besides the Eastern Cape, we are still extending our operation in parts of the Western Cape.
Yeah. Ali, thank you so much for your time and the good work that you're doing. Keep us updated, of course. We really do appreciate it. Ali Sablay, the manager and spokesperson of the Gift of the Givers project.